Welcome to Non-Diet Your Coaching Podcast. I'm Stephanie Dodier, clinical nutritionist and creator of the Going to Beyond the Food method, and I'm on a mission to help all coaches undiet their life and their coaching business. Ready? Let's do this. Welcome back, my dear colleague. This is Volume 4 of a very special episode we record once a year, which is Non-Diet Practitioners' Success Stories. And the student, my student, you're going to hear in that Volume 4, our student of the Non-Diet Mentorship Program. They're going to share their experience in the program and the result they have seen. And these are students from cohort number 6. These started in July 1st, and they're going to graduate on December 31st. So if you have been looking at the non-diet mentorship, wondering, and you want to hear it from the student, not from me, what this program is all about and what it can do for you, this is your episode. The Non-Diet Mentorship Program is a very intimate group coaching program, and we spend 6 months together. You're going to hear from 5 out of the 12 students in cohort 6. And if some of you, if you are interested in joining us for 2023, we have an open house or an information session that's going to be happening on December 6th. And the other portion of the student from cohort 6 will be present at the open house to again answer question directly from you to them without any interruption from me about their experience and what we do in the program, and share their story as well. The Non-Diet Mentorship Program, thus far that I know of and that I've been told, the only container with the focus on the non-diet approach and doing business in a non-oppressive way. So it's a very powerful container for people in our field, not only to sharpen your professional skills. I think what makes it different, and you'll hear that over and over and over again in today's episode, is learning how to coach as a professional coach. And this is probably the biggest confusion point in our industry, where professionals learn about intuitive eating or a body image framework or health at every size, and they think by lack of information, that's coaching, and it's not. And that's why when you hear my student talk about this, the impact of learning a coaching framework, which is based in cognitive behavior therapy, has profoundly changed who they are as a person, who they are as a professional, and also how they approach their business. We see that over and over again, where people come to us after having failed a number of times at starting their business. And it's not by a lack of strategies. It's never a lack of strategies. It's always them being able to implement the business and the sales and the marketing strategy, because their mind is what's stopping them, their emotional state, their nervous system. And that's what we work on. We work on ourselves as a human being, as a person, which makes us a great coach and allows us to really build a sustainable business for the rest of our life. I'm very proud of these women you're going to hear from today. They're a great example of the potential of that program for you. And you will hear from the other half of the group during the open house on December 6th. If you're listening to this at a later time, just check the website page of the Non-Diet Mentorship Program for the date of the open house for the upcoming cohort as well. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let our team roll in the audio recording of the podcast. If you want to watch the video version and see their face and my face, you can head over to the show note on our website, and the video version of this interview, this group interview, is available there for you to watch. So I'll see you on December 6th if you are ready to join us for the next cohort. And then I'll be able to answer directly at the end of the session your question, or you can ask your question to the student in a group. So let's roll in the interview. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have 5 guests for you. I have 5 students that are in the 5th month of the Non-Diet Mentorship Program, and we are here to talk about their story, their success through the Non-Diet Mentorship Program, and to answer some of your questions that you have submitted. So I'm going to get started right away because we are 6 people in Zoom right now, all looking at each other. And I want to make sure that each person has a time to share their story and also answer some of your questions. So I'm just going to do a round table of everyone here. So if you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do. And yeah, Lamia, you want to get us started?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, so my name is Lamia. I'm an anti-diet intuitive eating coach. I target Arabic women that are living abroad in their 30s, that they have a busy life. And yeah, as Stephanie said, I'm in the 5th month of this mentorship.
Thank you. Theodora?
Hi, my name is Dora. Thank you, Stephanie, for having me on your podcast. I'm a non-diet wellness and body image coach for high-achieving women who have background in sports, and I help them find food and body freedom by building non-diet wellness lifestyle.
That's amazing. Thank you, Sis.
Hi, I'm Sis, and thank you, Stephanie, for having me here. I'm a health coach, anti-diet health coach from the Netherlands, and I help women who have a chronic disease to get free of the struggle they have with their body, with their health. And I just help them to have more compassion for themselves and have an easier life.
Thank you. Joni?
Hi, thanks also, Stephanie, for having me. Joni O'Donnell, and I am also a non-diet intuitive eating coach, but I'm also an eating disorder recovery coach, and I help women who have struggled with chronic dieting their whole lives. Typically, I'm working with women who are over the age of 40, don't believe that there is life on the other side of their eating disorder or chronic dieting.
Great. And Julia?
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a non-diet coach, and I help people find food freedom, and specifically for those who feel stuck in their binge restrict cycle.
Amazing. Is this our first cohort? Cohort 6 is a very international cohort because we adjusted our time of our session. So most of the people in our cohort are international, like from different countries. So I'm excited about that. And you can hear it in their voice and who they're serving and also where they're serving people. So I'm very excited about that. So let's get started with some question that people have submitted, people who are perhaps interested in the non-diet mentorship, or at least perhaps a career in that. And by far, the most frequent question we have received is this one. And perhaps that was some of you before you joined the mentorship. I feel like a fraud. I can't launch my business until I am perfect with my relationship to food and body image. Who would like to answer that question? Perhaps somebody that can relate to that.
I'd be happy to start because I can relate 100% to that one. So yeah, I definitely had a lot of thoughts around imposter syndrome and being a fraud. And how dare I think that I can help anybody else when I had been struggling so much myself. I did finally reach a point where I realized I am far enough ahead. I have learned a lot. And it was really through a lot of self-coaching, talking to myself and asking the questions. What am I thinking about? Why am I having these thoughts? What feelings are they bringing up? And how can I get to the other side of this? And I finally just realized, like, I know more than I think I know. And I am so excited to be helping other women. I know how important it was in my life and my own recovery. And so I think just finally realizing how to believe in myself and realize that those thoughts of being a fraud were just thoughts, not real.
Was there a moment for you where that happened, or something that you integrated in your life or you did that made it shift the pendulum, like that you actually believe that you could help other people?
Yeah, I think for me, the moment was just deciding, I was really just making a decision for myself that this is something I know I can do. And when I decided to make that investment, there really was like no turning back. And I think also just realizing the food freedom and the overall freedom and joy that I started to feel in my life, I knew that I was far enough ahead that I can now share this with other women.
Thank you. Theodora.
I would just like to add to that because this particular struggle was pretty recent for me. I'm a person who is living in a straight size body, and I feel like a lot of non-diet coaches might relate to this as well. I was struggling in particular with finding my place and really finding my voice, like in a way that I can help other people without necessarily fitting into that body type of people who talk about fat phobia, for example, weight stigma, who are really, really leading this industry. And so for me, that took a lot of coaching, that took a lot of reflection to really realize that even though that my body doesn't have to like determine what I do or who I help, because there will be a lot of women who can relate to me and who will benefit from my coaching.
Yeah, very good point. Julia.
I just wanted to add that trying to be perfect in this way is like very similar to diet culture and trying to be perfect in a thin body or whatever it was for you. So it's very similar, and recognizing that and letting that go is really helpful.
Yeah, totally. It's like that need to like categorize yourself, like to put yourself in a box, basically, where you can finally give yourself the permission to say like, hey, I can do this. So yeah.
It's very interesting because the answer are coming very easy to you, and I can see the coach in you just showing up because you can recognize the thought pattern and the thought error. I don't know if you guys are feeling that when you're answering the question, but it's that question reflects a thought error of perfectionism and having to be good enough in order to give yourself permission. So I just want to acknowledge how beautifully answered that question was. Okay. So we talked about fear. We talked, like you guys talked about, like that need to be perfect and get over the fear and making decision. Often what happens for people, specifically for those who don't have a coaching framework, and some of you will relate to that before starting the mentorship, we feel that because we feel the fear in our body of moving forward, either committing to a coaching program or committing to investing money or committing to becoming a coach, whatever the thing is, we believe that the fear we feel inside of our body is an indicator for us to not move forward, right? So somebody asked, like, I feel afraid. How do I overcome that? Anybody wants to answer that question or have a story to share for that, sis?
I would say just don't overcome it, because you just embrace your afraidness. It just tells you something, that you really want something. And I know it's scary, but it's just a discomfort, and you have just learned to have all the emotions. And that's something so beautiful that you can give to your clients. So if you can learn to go with the fear and not struggle with it, is so beautiful that you can give your clients. That is just go with it and don't fight it.
So what you're saying is that the feeling of fear is not an indicator to not do the thing. It's an indicator to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's like a signal. I'm growing. I am going somewhere. It's just like, it's just a direction point. Okay, that's the good way. It's just, okay, it's a bit fearful, but I can handle it. I can live with it and just move forward.
Did you feel that prior to working with us here, right, in this program?
Yes, and I still do sometimes, but that's okay, because I really learned how to ride with the emotion and see it like my way, or like a signal. Okay, that's the good way. for me that I know that I can challenge myself to do something, even if I know that it's scary, but I really want to.
Were you always like this, or that's something that you recently developed, this ability to see fear as something positive?
No, that's just recent. That's just happened in this mentorship.
Okay.
I never had that before.
Before fear paralyzed you.
Yeah, right.
That's probably where this person is coming from. She's in that space where you were, where she's paralyzed with fear, which, by the way, is most people. Most people. And this is where coaching, I'll go to Lamia in just a minute, but this is where coaching comes in. And I just want to stand on my soapbox, if you will allow me. And maybe we can have a conversation about this, but this is where a coaching framework comes in. Because being an intuitive eating counselor, or having read the book of intuitive eating, or knowing a system about body image, it still doesn't give you the tool to coach people, to help people move through the human experience, aka your emotion, right? You refer to riding the wave. This is where having a coaching framework that you first embody for yourself and then you can use with other people will come in. So when the question is being asked, what do I do with my fear? It's just an indicator that you haven't a process for you to, I don't want to say master your emotion, but for you to express, feel your emotion and move through them. And you learning that will help you move through feel like cysts, just share here, but also being able to bring your client in that beautiful experience. Lamia, what did you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I wanted to actually to add on what you just said and what Sis just said also, that fear is an emotion that we are not just ignoring. We will be living it, and having these tools of self-coaching really helps. I had fear to be in the podcast now, and I had to coach myself through that the last couple of days and ever this morning to be able to be here. So it's not something just we apply for like coaching our clients or being there, but also for small moments like this.
Yes, Joni.
Yeah, I love this conversation, everything that Sis and Lamia have said. And for me, same thing as Sis, like before the mentorship program, I saw fear differently, and fear would stop me in my tracks. And it was something too, like if fear arose in me, I would look at it as danger and, oh, I should avoid that. But now I look completely differently at it. If I'm not feeling fear, then I think I'm doing something wrong, right? So, and I'll explain that. So when something arises and if I start to feel fear around it, that indicates to me that this is important. So this is something I should be paying attention to. And it gets me curious now. Where is that coming from and why am I feeling it? And I think if it's not important enough, I'm not going to feel fear, because I don't care enough about it. So now when I feel that fear, it kind of piques my interest. So where is that fear coming from? How can I, not just push through it, just really experience it and learn from it. And that's what keeps me going whenever I'm feeling.
Theodora.
I just wanted to add to that, because this conversation around fear is also so relevant to me. Same story, basically before fear would paralyze me. And now, same as Joni, like I see it as something that piques my interest, that like gets me curious. And the only reason why I was able to make that shift was because of self-coaching, was because of learning the coaching framework that like was literally life-changing, not just in my business, but also in my life, because fear is basically everywhere and we need to learn how to move through it.
I just wanted to add this because this was a different tool that Stephanie shared around fear, and it was the body compass. And she had said that the fear that we're feeling like before we post something on social media is if we feel it in our body, and then also think about the fear that we would have if like someone is chasing us, like those are very different. And that was so helpful for me in seeing that this is the type of fear that I can hold and move forward with.
This is brilliant. So let's talk about coaching for a minute here. Like for whoever asked this question, you're being coached right now. Just so you know, they have a series of tools in their toolbox. They have the self-coaching, they have riding the wave, they now have the body. They just pulled 3 out of their toolbox. And I just want for the coaches on that call, like that are listening, I just want you to know that you're coaching right now. You're just coaching somebody, you don't know who you're coaching, but you just pulled 3 tools out of your toolbox to coach this person. Let's talk about, like, a few of you have mentioned that self-coaching and coaching had some impact. Did you expect that impact before joining the mentorship? Like, did you understand coaching and how it would help you, or this was a surprise to you, and how did it impact you beyond your business? Anybody wants to, Joni, get us started?
Yeah, I can start with this one. So I thought I understood coaching before I started this program. I have a coaching framework. I have coaching training in my background. The self-coaching model that we learned here was, as Julia said, kind of life-changing, because I always understood that thoughts affect feelings and sometimes vice versa. But going through the self-coaching framework, it applies to any single decision I'm trying to make or anything that I'm feeling. And to recognize that here's my situation, kind of neutralize that, and then doing the thought download, really just making sure that you're getting all of that out. Like, what am I thinking? What are those thoughts? And the one thing I remember is what you said is a thought is just a string of words running through your head. And we have hundreds and millions of them every day, like all these thoughts. And once we can recognize and identify the thoughts, we can see what feelings are coming up from those thoughts, right? And that leads us into the action. So, how are we acting? If we're say we have a thought like, I'm afraid to go on the podcast, and it's bringing up this fear, what action are we taking? We can either not go on the podcast and make up an excuse and say, I can't be here today, or we can face that fear and say, you know what, I feel this, I get it. Thank you for showing up, fear. I understand, I appreciate it, but I'm going to go ahead and make that decision anyway to do something that I know will be beneficial to me and others. So I think the self-coaching model is just brilliant in the way that it helps me address anything that I'm encountering.
In your personal life and with your client.
Oh, absolutely. Both.
Theodora.
For me, as a new coach, before joining the mentorship, I definitely didn't have any coaching framework, like no coaching framework. So the main reason why I joined the mentorship was to learn how to coach other people. And so I thought that was what I was getting, which is obviously what I got as well, because now
I hope she got that.
Yeah, because now I completely believe in my ability to coach others. But not only that, like, learning how to coach myself has been the single most important thing that I feel like I've learned through the mentorship. And it's just impacted my life so much in so many different areas that, like, even just that would be like a reason to join. And like, I didn't expect it at all. So yeah, that's just my perspective on this.
Yeah, Lamia.
Yeah, so for me, it's the same as Theodora. I joined to learn how to coach because my thoughts of coaching was actually teaching. And then now I understand the difference between teaching and coaching. And that was also a great tool to apply to myself first. Because if we are not able to coach ourselves first, then we will never be able to coach other clients. And then, like, as you always say, our number one coach for ourselves. So like that's
and this is something I'm going to dovetail onto, and maybe you'll continue talking about this. One of the things that I'm standing on the soapbox and I'm like a firm believer in is our own personal evolution as a coach, from wherever we are to wherever we want to go, like how we have to work on ourselves first in order for us to show up in our full potential as a coach, but also to create a safe experience for our client. And maybe Lamia, you can continue on that, but I would like for Theodora to share what you shared last night on the office hours, your experience of having panic attack before coaching and now. I think that would benefit. But do you want to add anything to that of the embodiment piece, Lamia?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Theodora, do you mind sharing your story you shared with us last night?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I had a beta client. I was working in another business coaching program. And so I created a beta program, and an acquaintance of mine got into it. And she knew that I was a new coach and everything, but still that did not relieve the anxiety that I was feeling before each and every coaching session, because it was not really clear to me what the coaching process was. And I was always kind of doubting, am I like stepping outside of my scope of practice? Am I moving into therapy? Am I even allowed to talk about this? And all of these doubts were derailing me so much. And somehow it all turned out for the best, because what I didn't know I was applying back then was deep compassion towards the client as well. And even just that and my own like experience were enough to help her in many ways. But it's completely different now, because now I am moving into coaching sessions. Like I'm not just moving into them and panicking before. And I mean, that's not a good energy to have before a coaching session anyway, because I'm now aware that I wasn't really able to fully hold space for her and what she was offering. So a huge, huge shift.
Embodiment is how we create safety, right? We all want to create safety for our client. And I know there's not a question that was submitted about that, but I know safety is on the forefront of most coaches' mind. And I just want to say this, the level of safety have the capacity to create for other people is the level of safety you create for yourself. So let's imagine there was a scale of safety from 0 to 10. There's no such thing, but let's imagine there is 1. If your relationship for yourself is at a 5 out of 10, then you will be able to create a 5 out of 10 safety for other people. The way for you to be safe for other people is to be safe for yourself. That's how you can hold space for people. So let's talk about self-sabotage, because that was a question that was submitted. I feel like sometimes I'm self-sabotaging myself. You're going to love this one. I have a tendency to make things complicated in my business. You guys are all laughing. How do I resist this? Anybody wants to talk about complicating and self-sabotage?
I'm happy to start on this one again too, because I feel like I'm going to be the spokesperson for this question. One of the things that I learned and realized about myself is that I have a tendency to make everything very overcomplicated. And I didn't realize it until I started talking in this group and answering questions and trying to figure out things for myself. And I always use the word, it's so hard. This is so hard. I'm working so hard. I'm studying so hard. I'm all these things. And I was making things way harder than they had to be. And so trying to get past that and not have things so overcomplicated was just to step back and realize that things don't have to be that hard. And there is another way. There's another way to look at it. And it's all a matter of perspective. So for me, when I start out a new project or something I'm working on in my business, whether it's marketing or preparing for like a presentation or anything, I absolutely have to self-coach myself into stop calling it hard and believe that things can be simple and things can have ease. And when you believe that, it just makes everything more simple and it makes everything easier. And I didn't realize how often I made things complicated and how often I used the word hard in describing situations until I really became aware of it. And once I did, it started to kind of melt away. And now I do approach things with ease.
I'm just going to, everybody else hold your thought. I'm going to showcase the power of being coach as a coach. Because my memory serves me right, it was 2 months in that I called you out on how often you use the word hard. Mm-hmm. And this is because we coach ourselves, not just through self-coaching, but we come at least once a week, most of the time twice a week, in a Zoom container where we get coached by either our peers or most often by me. And I get to show you things. I don't tell you what to do, but I remember vividly the moment where I said, do you realize how often you use the word hard? And that knowledge would have not come to you would you have not willingly put yourself forward to be coached.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that moment too. And it was like a light bulb, like fireworks going off in my brain and having that realization. And just that one moment was the catalyst for me to make that change.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to talk about self-sabotaging or making things complicated? Theodora.
I just wanted to add to what Joni was talking about making things hard, because I also had that tendency. But to me, it was also really helpful to just stop and ask, why am I making this hard? And when I asked myself that question, usually what came up for me was perfectionism. And so every time I noticed that, that was a moment where I knew, okay, I have to stop. I have to hold myself and tell myself, it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to do B- work. And that belief just became so ingrained in me that I feel like as days go by, my perfectionism tendencies are diminishing. So
I'm just going to talk about nervous system regulation, because if you're watching in the video, you saw her physically holding herself. But one of the things that we constantly talk about is bringing safety to ourselves, regulating our nervous system so we can build the capacity to do bigger things and take bigger risk and move forward in our business. How is your relationship to your nervous system today versus 6 months ago? Anybody can speak to that. Sis.
I would say I never heard of nervous regulation before the mentorship, and it just was going wild in my body. And I have really learned to just hold myself and let it go in me. It doesn't mean anything. I just have to relax and also learn my nervous system that fear is not always life-threatening, and that it's okay to feel fear. And I am holding myself in the camera. It's just, it is there and it's okay. And it's just the way is just to breathe through it. It is just made it so much easier just to go forward and do my things that I wanted to do.
Nervous system. Oh, go ahead, Joni. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say also, one of the most important things learning about regulating your nervous system is how critically important it is to get a handle on that and do it before you move on to anything else, because you just can't. Your brain cannot handle being completely regulated and full of anxiety and worry and fear, and at the same time take a step forward. So it's the first piece. You really have to regulate that and find tools that help you, because until you do that, you're not able to get to that next step.
Yeah, that's when we freeze. If anybody listening to this is on the pattern of showing up on social media for 2 weeks and not showing up for 4 weeks and showing up and not showing up, it's not there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your nervous system hijacking you. And I just something came to my mind, so I'm going to say it because somebody needs to hear that. But there's a lot of talk about nervous system regulation these days in our circle of coaching, which is amazing because that's going to serve our client. But you want to be careful that you're not approaching this with the diet culture lens. I have to be regulated before I work with people. Your nervous system will never be regulated because it's not meant to be 100% calm all the time. It's not meant to do that. The regulation we're talking about is your capacity to feel your nervous system, say, oh, we're activated right now. What's going on? Like Joni said, get curious, figure out what it is, bring safety to it. But that will happen for your whole life. You'll never get to a place where it's calm all the time. And if you do, you're probably in freeze. You're not in calm status. So whoever needed to hear that, this is for you. Okay. I want to talk about specifically your experience or your wins or your what you've learned or how the mentorship has benefited you over the last 5 months. If you had one thing or one aspect of your experience over the last 5 months that you want to share with someone else listening to this and being undecisive or are where you were 6 months ago, what would you say to that person? Who wants to get us started? Okay, Theodora.
I feel like I already mentioned this, but I think this is especially relevant for new coaches who feel like they don't have a framework and they don't know how to move into sessions with clients and really guide the client through the process of intuitive eating or body image or whatever else. I think that was my biggest win. Like, I became a coach during this mentorship. Like, I really did, and proud of myself for it. But just the learnings and embodiment of it all is really what takes it to the next level. Like, it's not just knowledge that is presented to us. We have to embody it. Otherwise, we can't understand it well enough to like give it to the client and really help the client. So to me, that's my win. I became a coach during the mentorship. So for anybody who's new, who's listening, that's what will happen. So yeah.
Thank you. I'll go around the table. Sis, Lamia, Joni, and Julia.
For me, I think it was just being enough and being authentic. Like, I never knew what my offer was. I never knew what for coach I want to be. I never knew how to be coach, anything. I just was like, I will have to be perfect and I have no idea, but just freeze. And it's just made me believe, and I know I am enough and I can do my own things and I know how to coach and I can have a great offer for everybody who wants to work with me. And I really believe I can help somebody and believe that they can have a free life with the help I have. So that's just, for me, it's just changed so much.
And pretty sure, I know we've heard through coaching call, but it's spread beyond just your business and even how you travel and your relationship, but it really impacted your life.
It does.
Lamia?
Yeah, so same for me. I also feel like I became a coach during this mentorship. That's one, like, my biggest win. Having now a framework or process for coaching in intuitive eating or body image or whatever. But I feel that I also became beyond that. Like, I came for intuitive eating specifically, but I feel like now I can be a life coach because the framework and process that we were learning and applying and embodying, it can be applied to any kind of area. And it's just amazing, like, this process, how it helps in all phases of our life and all, like, domains or whatever.
Before I go to Joni, I just want to, because yesterday we did some work with Lamia on her ideal client in the coaching session we had yesterday. And she's now, like, today I'm hearing her not even 24 hours later, and she's a lot clearer. And she's going to now go and specialize with, like, professional, busy women that struggle with food. And she's able to do that, and she will be able to deal with these professional women because of the framework, because the reason why they have a problem with food is way beyond the food. It's their problem at work. And, like, she's from an academia perspective, like, if it's other teacher and other people who think at a higher level, like, this is going to be life-changing for your client when you're able to coach them beyond the food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and true. I'm now more, like, clear in my head, and all these things are really big wins for me. Like, even from one day to another, like, very small wins. It's not just one win for the last 5 months. Every day there is a small new win.
Yeah. Julia, and then Joni.
Yeah, I started this program without knowing if I truly wanted to be a coach for intuitive eating. And I did it anyway. And I learned that I had this doubt about it because I felt like I wasn't confident enough and I, like, wasn't enough to be a coach. And the coaching model is so powerful, and it helped me process that and realize that I am enough and that I am a coach. That is my biggest win as well from this program. And I've used the coaching model for a variety of things in my life during this mentorship. I've used it to process the death of a childhood friend. I've used it to end a relationship and come out of it. In the past, I would have stayed in a relationship that wasn't working well for much longer. And I was able to end it much quicker because of the coaching process. And then also to be able to show up on social media. Like, there's so much power in the coaching model. And I'm so thankful to have had that learning with Stephanie. It's been amazing.
It's very interesting because we coach on a lot of those life events, call them life events, but this is what you guys are going to be doing with your client, right? The reason why they struggle with health or they obsess with their body or food is not because of the food, it's because of the life event. So being a witness to me coaching Julia on those life events and Julia being coach, reaffirm you can handle all of that from your client.
Yeah.
You want to close this off? Oh, sorry, Julia. You want to close this off, Joni?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just have to second every single thing that everybody said. I feel like they've covered almost all of it. And Stephanie, you brought up the ideal client. And so that definitely is a big win for me, is being able to kind of pinpoint and recognize who my ideal client is and who I want to work with. And I think going from there, like, this program gave me so many opportunities to coach, to be coached, to practice, to learn in a non-judgmental group and environment, and create a network of colleagues that I know I can always connect with. And so I think also for me, the coaching aspect of it was learning that I know so much more than I thought I know. And from the business aspect is that this is my business. This isn't somebody else's business. I don't have to follow the rules. I don't have to compare myself to anybody else. This is mine. I get to make the decisions. And it is so empowering to feel that and believe it. So I think my greatest win is really that, is believing in myself and knowing that I get to make the rules in my own business and create it in my own vision.
Thank you to all of you. I want to put one more question out there before we close it off, because I've seen it. I've never heard being asked, but I've seen it over and over. Being coach as a coach. So many of you have talked about like how you were coached or you're being coached. And I see a lot and I feel a lot of resistance when I do open coaching call for professional, like to come up and raise your hand to be coached. And I'm not sure where this is coming from, and maybe you can help us think through that. But we put ourselves out there as a coach, we call ourselves a coach, but we don't see the benefit of being coach in our business or with our life event. And to me, it's the biggest learning path is being coach. Is that how you experienced being coach? And what's your relationship to being coach now versus before? Anybody wants to take that one?
I'll start with that one. So for me, being coached, and I think this might go for other coaches as well, one of the things that would maybe intimidate me or make me hesitate or pause before being coached is this almost like an ego situation where I am thinking, well, I don't need to be coached because I am a coach and I already know all the answers. And you can kind of expect, if Stephanie is coaching, I'm trying to like guess one step ahead. Like, I know what she's going to ask next. And when she asked that question, I'm laughing because I'm like, I knew that was coming because I'm a coach and I know this. However, on the flip side of that is the benefit of being coached is really taking a step outside of your own comfort zone and having somebody with a completely non-biased objective looking in with you at your life, at your decisions. And having that perspective is invaluable because we have blinders on to ourselves, right? So we're going through life and we don't see everything else happening around us. We're too personally connected to it. So to have somebody in a professional capacity kind of show it back to you in a coaching model is just so empowering and informative.
Yeah. Theodora.
To me, being coached served as a process to like build self-trust as well. Because before going into the mentorship, I thought, okay, I experienced coaching once before and it was more like sharing information. But now it's like you expect to kind of receive information, but you don't receive it from the other person. Instead, you're asked questions and you are like trusted to come up with your own answers. And so you start believing that, hey, in fact, the answers are within you. And that is like a huge change and like just increases self-trust so much because you can then rely on yourself way more. So yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Julia.
I think that also sometimes coaches don't want to be coached because they don't want to admit the parts of them that they need support around, which I totally get. But being coached as a coach is really helpful because it was the best way to learn for me, like how to approach the coaching process. And Stephanie didn't always take the coaching where I thought she was going to go with it. And that has been the most helpful.
Yeah. And I coach a certain way and I took you a certain place, and a peer of yours probably would have coached you and go to another place. Like there's not one direction. When you know how to coach and ask questions, you just try one spot, try another spot, and see where the person, you let your coachee drive where this needs to go. Lamia.
Yeah, I would like to add a small point comparing to all what was said. So being coach also makes you learn and understand the impact and the power of coaching also. So that especially for someone that never experienced coaching, that was really powerful. For me, like it's my first time being coached. And then I have now like the bigger vision on how impactful it can be on the other person, on the other side. And that was, also a big win, actually.
Well, this is so good, even for business perspective. Like if you're a coach out there who doesn't get coached, but you're trying to sell coaching, this is going to make you very incongruent and your nervous system will get in the way. Your nervous system will say, you're trying to sell something you don't believe in, that you don't do for yourself. So if you're a coach who doesn't have a coach or is not in a coaching program, is not in an environment where you receive coaching and you're having this on and off peaks, it's probably because you're not being coached, because you're selling something that you're not yourself experiencing all the time. And I love the piece about the impact on your client because you're receiving coaching and you know you're experiencing coaching safely. So you know how to deliver it safely to other people. Anyone else wants to have before we close? No? Julia.
I just want to add to that really quickly. I was in the beginning really scared to say some things in fear of how the client would react. But seeing coaching through our mentorship and when Stephanie would coach me and coach others, seeing how that was approached and also having the tools to just be with the client's emotions too, and however they respond. That was a great piece for me.
Yes. Sis, did you want to say something?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you very much for having shared your experience. There is a person listening to this right now or a year or 2 years on the road that needed your message. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for showing up as coaches. I think it's like wired in your brain now. Like you showed up here today as a coach and you coached a question in front of you. That was so beautiful for me to see. Like, this is my legacy. I'm leaving with all of you, like being coach in your DNA and facing life as a coach. So I just want to reflect that to all of you. Like, you showed up as a coach naturally. And that's a massive transformation. So well done. If you're listening to this and you have any question, all these ladies here are on social media. Some of them are more like, I'm thinking Joni is more of a networking person, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you want to reach out to them on social media. They'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you very much for being with us. If you have any question about any of our program, you can send us an email and we'll answer you. Thank you. Ready to shed diet culture from your practice and help more clients do the same? Awesome. We've got 3 resources to get you started. Simply go to stephaniedodier.com/pro series, all in one word, and access our 3 free training classes that are currently available. We also have a free PDF guide to intuitive eating, an article about the non-diet approach. We also offer a variety of paid programs throughout the year to support you in your journey to undiet your coaching practice. Join us at stephaniedodier.com/pro series, and I'll see you on the other side.